All right. Let me see. All right. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. I don't know if anyone can hear me in the chat. If they can push one. If not, I'll just have to go under the assumption that I'm loud and clear. All right, so welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is open chat number 19. Is the Black community too big to fail or too broken to fix? Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. We just came off of a previous hangout on Black Tech Talk, so I'm going to go under the assumption that people can hear me. So let me give my dissertation. And here's what my current position is on this whole entire topic. This topic came up because we were having some conversation before about whether or not it's worth it to fix the issues that surround Black people, cultural, mostly cultural, and all of these live streams and things that are going on. Is it really worth it? Some people argue yes, and then there's other people who say no, let it burn, right? There's a term in the manosphere that say, quote unquote, let it burn. And with um, that consensus, it seems that there's half dozen in one half, and then in the glass is half full on the other side. So you don't know which side to actually agree upon because their positions are so vastly different. You know, they say let it burn. That means let everybody suffer, and then the other one is to save it. That means everybody, including the ones who dislike you, to salvage that as well. And I think for the most part, most people are under the impression that it's not worth it for all intents and purposes. And if it's not going to be worth it, then why have the Black Brain Trust? Why do the live streams? What's the purpose of all of this? What do you really gain from doing doing all these live streams, hourly uploads? People spending 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I've seen some hangouts go for 13 hours. What could you possibly be talking about for 13 hours if you don't think it's worth it? And if you do think it's worth it, where were the solutions in that? Because I didn't hear any solutions in those live streams at all. So is it too big to fail or too broken to be fixed? That's the question for tonight. Too big to fail or too broken to fix? Or is there an alternative to this? Is there a happy median that can be met? to satisfy both sides of the aisle, too broken to fail or too broken to fix. Hey, what's going on, Rayo? What live streams are you referring to, Mike V? It doesn't matter which live streams I'm referring to. Doesn't matter. A 13-hour live stream is a 13-hour live stream in the manosphere. My perspective is that if it's going to be 13 hours, what's the value of a 13-hour live stream? What do you gain from a 13-hour live stream? What do you gain from an 8-hour live stream? There's a lot of pontificators in the manosphere, people who like to pontificate, people who like to have dialogue and conversation about things they just don't even know about. And you ask them to elaborate on what it is that they're talking about, they can't say anything. But they will tell you how they cook you and all this other cannibalism that they like seem to love. So that's the question for tonight. That's the topic for tonight. Is it too big to fail or too broken to fix? If you want to join the panel, make sure you raise your hand so that I can acknowledge you, so I can advance you to the panel. And we have our first panelist. What's going on, Super Triz?
Big Mike, what's going on with you?
Your mic is a little bit choppy.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I'm en route to a location, so that's pardon the sound quality.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yes. Yeah, this is a great topic as usual.
Mm-hmm.
As far as being too big to fail, well, yeah, it's too big to fail, but you have to quantify failure. Mm-hmm. Because if you have people spending a majority of their income on conspicuous consumption, then is it a failure for the people that stand to benefit from that consumption? Absolutely not. So when we look at wealth, mm-hmm. wealth basically means that actually the maintenance of wealth, your capital influx has to outpace your expenditures. That's how you retain wealth, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you look at part of being able to enjoy your wealth is to enjoy certain luxuries, right? Mm-hmm. So even if you had the know-how and the wherewithal to actually create those luxuries for yourself, that kind of defeats the purpose if you have to actually craft the things that you want to surround yourself in. So you rather have somebody else craft them and you just purchase them from them. And as long as the purchase price is less than you actually feel the value of that thing is, then it's okay. So mm-hmm. you have people who craft these things for you and you buy them from the people that craft them. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, mm-hmm. and that's part of enjoying your luxury. So when we look at people who actually, craft things, or, most of the people who are not in this country, but we look at within this country, right? You have taxes. People collect taxes. People do, little jobs here and there, service industry, things like that. And then they take the money that they make and they spend it, and it somehow makes its way back to the top. So mm-hmm. what you have to do is you have to figure, okay, this is something that's been going on for the longest. And even people who try to be responsible, right? If they're not making a certain amount of wage, a lot of their income is going to be spent, on, consumption, right? Whether it be conspicuous or not. And then you have the people who have the desire to accumulate generational wealth, so that way they position their children not to endure the things that they endured. But how advantageous is that to people at the top? Because then those people who are actually creating generational wealth and transcending their current economic strata, they at some point will pose a threat to those at the top. So does it really is it really logical to empower people who at some point in the future may pose a threat to your lineage? So, it sounds great. Hey, let's empower everybody. Let's help each other out. But then you start looking at socialism, and then the people who do the most work, that make the most sacrifice, have the same reward as people who don't sacrifice as much. And that becomes problematic. That may potentially stifle intellectual growth, and it may cause brain drain, as they call it, in capital flight. So it really is a complex phenomenon when you ask this question about, can the community be saved, and is it worth saving? I think that you really have to look at the individuals that want to progress. You have to look at the individuals who want to make a difference and who want to do things, and focus on them. People that don't want to sacrifice, who don't want to do work for whatever reason, or don't feel that it's possible, you know what? Let's focus on the individuals that are most capable, right? And let's empower the individuals that are most capable and that have a positive trajectory. Let's focus on them. And then at some point in the future where we feel like our position is solidified, then we can go back and get the stragglers. And I think that, Black Brain Trust serves that purpose. Let's focus on the people that at least are going to meet us halfway there. Like if I gotta put you on my back and give you a piggyback ride, that's going to slow me down. Now, if I could just, hey, you know what? Let me try to tie your shoe so you can keep up. You know what I'm saying? If I can do that for you, then I'm all for that. And that's where I stand on that situation. I mean, some people may feel differently, but I'm of the camp that not everybody can be saved.
Right. Because when you put, and that's actually a good presentation. Thank you for that. When you take into consideration the capacity of Black America, right, 45 plus million people, and then you take in, I mean, you can't just get rid of millions of people just like that. You can't also have this sort of society where only a couple people benefit and then the rest do not, and the rest just have to accept their fate, so on and so forth. That becomes a too big to fail scenario. And then too broken to fix means you look around in the manosphere and you see the sort of conversations that are being had and activity that's going on, people scamming people ripping people off and desecrating, the ancestors of Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and Dr. Amos Wilson and all these other historic greats that came before us who we stand on their shoulders. That becomes a too broken to fix situation. You have guys following other guys on YouTube on the streets and pulling out guns on them and running up on them with open carry and stalking them. Just a myriad of issues. You wonder, do I really want to fix that? I mean, is it really worth investing into that? I mean, what are we really investing into? What is the return on investment? Where's the infrastructure is always my question for these people who always want to talk about game and what you need to do to get this person and get that person number and attention and be the it factor. Where's the return on investment? Where's the infrastructure? Where's the pediatric centers? Where's the OBGYN centers, you know, for their beloved superior that they seem to bow down and kowtow to so much? I don't see those same people out there advocating for, you know, Medicare or Medicaid for all, whatever it is that their beloved master seems to need so much. They're never out there doing the work, so it becomes a too broken to fix on their behalf, and then it's too big to fail because you have so much human capital at your hands. What's going on, MOT?
Yo, what's going on, man? What's going on, Super?
He's driving right now. Go ahead.
What's going on, MOT?
Not much. Chilling out. Man, I had this conversation before I left the South a couple weeks ago when I was down in Morton, Mississippi, trying to get black people jobs down there after they tried to close their plant down. And, dude, it's just some people that you can't help, dude. And even trying to help them is an affront to your actual progress. I'm not talking about the people in Morton, Mississippi. I'm talking about the people who did not board that church bus and know that they needed a job 40 miles out from the place. They would have took any swinging person, women and men, kids alike, who went down there. And none of these people like, man, cut the check. I'm not going to do anything until I get to cut the check. So it's like, you know, like, how can you negotiate with people like that, you know?
That goes to my point earlier, MOT, where I said that you know, when it gets to the point where people start, it looks more like socialism, where the people that make the sacrifices and that do the work are supposed to provide for the people that refuse to make those sacrifices and do the work. Like a lot of, like, just basically like education is a sacrifice. You don't get an immediate return on your investment, right? So there's a sacrifice involved in it, and you have to do it. And then, like, you know, and I understand, right? People have children, and then, you know, they, you know, it tugs on their emotional heartstrings. But like, if I'm struggling as a parent, right, and I have a choice to make, and that choice involves, okay, I'm gonna buy my kid, you know, the PlayStation 4, or I'm gonna do something that's gonna position my child, whatever type of sacrifice that is, so that way they won't have to make a decision whether or not they can buy something or not. It's not going to be based on the available finances. It's going to be based on just whether or not they want to buy it or not. But see, I have to make decisions based on my available finances, and I want to make sure my children aren't in that position. So that's what I mean by, like, sacrifice, because, you know, it's like some of these people claim that they're going through things for, you know, as far as financial concerns, but it's like, I can't tell you're struggling financially because you still going to the store, waiting in line for Jordans, waiting in line for Popeye's chicken sandwiches. You know, you're waiting in line for the newest PlayStation 4 and Xbox game. It's like, where is the sacrifice that you making? The sacrifice, you see the sacrifice I'm making. Like I've already committed myself. I'm saving $3,000 every month. I want to go out to eat. You know, I want to go shopping for clothes. I want to buy, you know, it's a lot of stuff I want to buy. I want that new Corvette, but no, I gotta sacrifice, and I gotta put my money away, because that's the sacrifice that I'm willing to make. Delayed gratification. Mm-hmm. And so when MOT says, you know, he actually extended the olive branch and said, hey, I have an opportunity for you guys out here. And they wouldn't even meet him halfway. What more is he supposed to do?
Like Super Trish, I'm an atheist, and I knew to go to the black church first to get these people to pay the church to take these people to Morton, Mississippi, so that way they can have a job. And most people in that community did not even get on the bus.
No, you know why they get on the? Because they was taking Ubers to Popeyes to get a damn chicken sandwich.
No, they weren't taking Ubers, but they were using Uber Eats to get that sandwich delivered to them.
And I couldn't believe it. Like the judge who runs that church. He came in here. He was like, "Well, I know exactly who you." Well, because he, I'm like a distant cousin. He was like, "I know who your family is, and I've looked up your stuff on YouTube. Like, you're not a Christian, so why are you here?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm trying to get people jobs," and he couldn't connect the dots between people having jobs and people coming to his church. He couldn't connect the dots until I connected it for him.
Yeah.
And it was like, look, man, you may not like these people. I may not like them either, but guess what? These people got to be able to have a job to come to. And if you deliver them that through your church bus, they're going to be here on Sunday. He ain't believe me. Second week, we took like 17 people down. All 17 people got a job.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? All 17 people and their families, 41 people was there in this church. Nobody been in this church in a couple of years. I told him that, dude, there is strength in trying to help these actual people down here.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, man, I don't know. I lock most of these people up down here. I'm like, man, why are you even in the criminal justice system? And why are you even a Baptist minister if you actually don't even want to support the actual people? Now, I'm an atheist talking to this dude about, dude, you need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do this.
Well,
yeah.
No, I was just going to answer Raining Woman's question. He said, what is the community? The community is made up of people who have shared experience of culture, shared experience in culture. So, like it or not, these nefarious people who we try to disassociate ourselves with are still a part of the community. So even like MOT was saying, they still need jobs to get, they should be getting on the bus, and a lot of them won't do it. But they'll stand around and complain about the situation though. We got 40 people watching and only 16 likes. Please hit the like button if you're not going to participate in the chat. And if you want to get on the panel, let us know, push 1 in the chat, and we can drop the link for you. You can get on the panel. Make sure when you get on the panel, you raise your hand so that we can acknowledge you and we can advance you to the panel.
You talk about the community, that we are a community, whether we like it or not else. But see, we have individuals who are motivated to exclude you from. They feel like whatever doesn't directly benefit them, right? And whatever your beliefs and ideologies are differ from theirs so greatly, especially when it pertains to the Black woman. Like, if you're an individual who considers yourself to be Black, considers yourself to be part of the community, yet you've made a conscious decision to become intimately involved with somebody who is not Black, who is not considered part of the African diaspora community, then all of a sudden your membership in the community is revoked, even though you've done more to the benefit of the community that you claim to be a part of than individuals who desire to revoke your membership. Now, how is it somebody who's done nothing for the community all of a sudden has the audacity to say that you're no longer part of it? Mm-hmm. I mean, can somebody explain that to me?
Yeah, I think there's a polarization happening amongst people, and maybe, and I think we had a hangout about this before about is there does democracy work in the Black community, or is there a democracy in the Black community? I don't know if democracy could actually work, because those who didn't put in the same amount of work, I'm just thinking about this now, those who did not put in the same amount of work can actually vote you out of a position that you may have earned. There's a lot of polarizing ideas just floating about. So to add to your point, to Patrice.
And that is exactly my point. Individuals who haven't contributed are usually the most vocal. Like even like, you know, and I got to be careful about this, but you know, in my line of work, you know, the clientele that I serve, the individuals who haven't contributed to the pot. We'll just put it like that. And you guys can kind of, you know, draw conclusions about what I mean by that. Individuals who haven't contributed to the pot are, you know, like I would say 20%, maybe even 15% of my clientele demands 80% of my attention, 85% of my attention. Now, out of that 15%, I would say 7.5% of it is warranted. I mean, like they need attention because of factors outside of their control. But the other 7.5% are just demanding, period. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, you asking for all this, and it's like, you don't even get that at home. All of a sudden, you come here, and you demanding this, you demanding that. And it's like people don't understand how social elements of socialism work, right? The elements of socialism work. The reason why it's supposed to work is that, okay, well, number one, when you have people who don't really consider others, they only consider themselves, that's when you start having a problem with socialist ideologies. Because somebody is like, you know, like you pass around collection, they put in $20. They say they put in $20, but they only put it in $1, and they take in $19 change. And it's like, you know, you got that type of stuff going on, you know, and so this is the reason why people really want to disassociate themselves from the community, because they're like, well, wait a minute, the amount of input, you know, that I have, right, or the amount of contribution I have, you know, to the collective pot, you know, it is pales in comparison to the amount of taking out of the pot by other members who haven't put nearly as much effort as I can actually see the benefit of my membership. You got to ask yourself, okay, as being part of the Black community, people who are actually builders and creators, how much do you benefit from your association to the Black community? Like, you got to really think about that. Like, do you really benefit from your association, or are you really giving up more than you're getting out of it? And on that note, I'm gonna have to part ways, gentlemen, because I am at my destination. But I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your patience.
All right, later, fam. Thank you.
Peace.
All right.
And we'll see. You want to follow up on it?
Yeah, it's just that we have a poverty of the input-output spectrum when it comes to Black people, you know. Everybody wants to benefit from the works of great people, but nobody wants to put in the great input. Right? So it's like, how on earth are we supposed to get to where we're supposed to get to if the people who we don't want to be in charge are in charge, which are most of the non-select women for the most part. They want to have the benefits of an actual patriarchy without choosing an actual dude to actually lead. They want to raise kids that are mal-raised that we have right now. And somehow we're supposed to have all that and Black hegemony at the same time. So it's like, I don't understand what these people want, man.
Mhm. I think there needs to be a deeper look, a deeper analysis on the political structures of the Black community, um, because the current structure doesn't actually work. At least for the majority of the people, it really does not work. And what it seems like here is that you may need an authoritarian sort of uh, structure. I don't know if maybe authoritarian might be the wrong term to use, but a non-democratic structure may be the only way to actually fix a lot of these a lot of the issues, because it doesn't seem like democracy works at all. It just seems like people who you've never even heard of before are coming out of nowhere and saying, well, I disagree and here's why, and it's because you're stupid and that's it, and I'll cook you, and I'll put you in the pot and eat you up like gumbo or something like that. It's just crazy sort of perspectives that are showing up now that it's not there in other areas of different communities. It's not like that. When I deal with
But you can't have perspective without track records, though.
right.
Like, this is the only place where you can have perspectives without track records is the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is promise the biggest plate of fried catfish to anybody, and you get whatever you want here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, that's the way it is. It's kind of like, when I was in Key West last week, I had like a disaster. No, I'm not even gonna go into it.
Okay.
But if Nagone 11 was on, he would be able to tell you because I showed him pictures.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I was down there, and a guy who owned an IT company, bringing in $2 million a year in Florida, was getting a fifth degree from a chick that he never should have even been with.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in his immediate personal circle did not tell him that. He had to hear from somebody who wasn't his family that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I hate Black women or anything like that. I just don't want Black men or Black women making bad decisions and choices with their actual one body that they have. And there's nothing wrong with me that I give a damn about the future based on people's options and choices.
Mm-hmm.
But people treat me as I'm some type of pariah because I want to institute some level of actual normalcy.
Yeah, something based off of meritocracy.
Correct. And it's like, dude, this system isn't all that bad. But I think that we have, in efforts to dodge being, I don't know, assimilated, that we assimilated into something far worse by dodging actual, just taking the principles that did work and dumping the stuff that didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of the economy, right? Too big to fail or too broken to fix. I think that there honestly is a strong contingency of people who may not be able to be learned, or can learn. I think that certain people who are past 25 years old, I think their time is over, for the most part.
Yeah.
I think that they're pretty much done at that point. Wasting a lot of resources and capital into people who are growing into a certain age bracket that really can't contribute to society in a fourth industrialized age. Okay, you can teach them how to you give them a CDL. Okay, fine. But there's also other aspects of the society that needs to be built. And those guys are not contributing to it at all. And that becomes a problem. Or I should say those guys, those people, because it's not just guys. Those people are not contributing at all. They're basically just, for all intents and purposes, freeloading off of the 20% that are actually putting in the work. I see this during undergrad, a lot of guys copying off people's papers, wanting to copy off people's papers, trying to steal people's dissertations and stuff like that, man. All types of effery going on with that get over mentality, where they feel that somebody owes them something, and if you don't do it, then you're a bad person for not advancing me. Like, I don't even know you, dude. Like, why do I have to be the one to bear the responsibility for you? And that's where it becomes too broken to fix.
Well, I mean, it's stolen valor, but it's done a different way, right? You know, they want to steal the valor of people who actually have done the work. I mean, it's stolen valor. It's the same. It's the same fraudulent concept. Mm-hmm. It's still stolen valor, but it's acceptable stolen valor as long as you put a certain type of black man under the bus while you're doing it. Right. And they don't want us talking because we know where the bodies are buried. We know exactly what happened. We can intellectually have this conversation with them, and they can't have the conversation back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm seeing it in the manosphere. I see it on the ground every day. You go out in certain neighborhoods and communities, you see the same straggle guys still standing on the corner, still standing in front of the liquor store. They went from begging for a quarter to asking for a whole $5.
Yeah, and we bring these things up because we don't want it to happen again. Not because we want to repeatedly see it over and over again, right? Well, like today was a recent video that I dropped before he deleted his comment. The guy was like, "Oh, you're a broken record," but I'm like, dude, you're trying to get access to something you shouldn't have access to. So if you're willing to listen to me talk about the response to what's going on, and you have no response on what happened before we got here, why are you even talking to me? Right. I'm just trying to complete the cycle to stop happening. Another guy emailed me back and forth 2 or 3 emails, and dude was like kind of embarrassed and shocked that I would even talk to him. I'm like, yes, because I'm trying to get to the best possible argument, period, so we can go forward, right? Like, I'm not here to roast you or cook you like you're a damn, like, dude, I don't care about any of that. If you think that you can challenge my point of view, why not? Maybe I learned something. I always learn something. Right? So it's kind of like, why can't we have discussions based on logic and fact? We got so many people in the space that are bringing hearsay to the table and dressing it up as if it's peer-reviewed science. It's not.
Right. It isn't.
I told people there's over 47 different actual levels of behavioral psychologists that they call into court to testify for certain things. You know what I have not heard? I haven't heard anybody who come to court talk about select male or non-select male. I've never heard anybody go to court talk about a woman is so she has such an uncontrollable nature that she can be able to sleep with a 15-year-old. I've never heard of any of that. You want to know why? Because it's not in medical science, period. And people are willing to forego the outcome as long as their outcome matches up with what the huckster is selling them. I'm like, dude, that ain't science. That's just capitulation and surrender. Right. It's not what you think it is.
Right. Right. And it's a good point when you say that you want to have a logical discussion. I think there's a lot of people who believe that emotion is logic.
Yes. And I tried to tell a dude today who thought he had me in a bind, and then I was like, well, why don't you come on? Why don't you come onto my platform? You can take as many free shots you want to as me and my reputation that you think it is, but I want you to ask your questions openly. And I guarantee you, you wouldn't have come no closer to me responding to you that there ain't no way in the hell that you could possibly think this way. Because outside of their actual, oh, was, yeah, I'm just going to defend whatever they do no matter what. And if you complain about it, you are lame. Yeah, well, why don't you come to my platform and why don't you describe yourself without the audience? You know, you're going to fall flat, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, dude, listen. Just because you don't believe in your future doesn't mean I ain't got to believe in mine. We know what my position is. We know what my situation is. If I say is not the way to go, then it's probably something you probably should listen to at the minimum. Because there ain't 50-year-olds in my circle who are out here trying to sell non-select women to actual men. They don't exist in my circle.
Right. Well, you know, they definitely don't want to come to this platform and have a logical discussion because there's a high probability they may get shown up and they don't have control over the panel. So they
Yes,
can't set it.
and they only want to have discussions with people who agree with them. That's not a discussion.
Yeah, you look at the chat of some of those people's live streams, you'll see hashtag facts, big facts, bro. Yeah, that's dope. This, and that. And it's like, what are you co-signing? What are you really co-signing at the end of the day? Like, yeah, cook that dude, man. Cook that food. Show him, you know, throw up more farm animals and stuff like that. Like, that's not really going to help you over here. Over here, you're gonna get dusted really quickly if you come with something weak. That's gonna get punted right up out of here, man. And I think it's easy for them to pontificate on their side rather than to come here and really talk about some of the tangibles that are going to be necessary to build a sort of society. We look at Singapore. Singapore has 5 million people living in it right now as a population, and homelessness is down to 0.1%.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah,
It's amazing I went there before they actually decided to do something about it, by the way.
mm-hmm. Yeah, their society is run by technocrats.
Like, they don't understand how technocrats could resolve everything. Like, technocrats ran the United States until like the 70s. After
Right.
the Carter administration is when they started to go away. And they definitely left after the Reagan administration.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Germany isn't doing anything different than what the technocrats did in society in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. It's just that they just found a new place to go to once
Right.
America started moving away from that.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that is the difference. The community is too big to fail or too broken to fix. Well, you need technocrats to actually fix it, and the technocrats are being attacked on a constant basis. Whether it's Robert F. Smith, some other brother like Pharrell or somebody like that, you know, Jay-Z. Somebody is attacking those who can actually come up with a viable solution. But the people who are doing the attacking are not being criticized for their attacks. It's the victim on the opposite side of the attack who is being further chastised for their, you know, for their lack of willingness, for the lack of a better description.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, dude, listen. You know, at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
where are we going? I mean, because the we that we're talking about is me and you,
Mm-hmm.
but the other we who are listening,
Mm-hmm.
we're not talking down to anybody. We just want people to get better at where the future's going. That's what this actual space is about. If people look at you like, why are you talking about the future? I'm not going to be there. I'm like, I'm not sure that's actually a bad idea. that you're not going to be there.
Yeah, thanks for giving us a heads up.
Yes, that you're not going to be able to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
When these reptiles like broke into like my aunt's crib and she lived there for 40 years, same community, like there was nobody there to protect her, to help her. She called the police. They came in like the next day. They didn't care. They thought she was dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somehow she's supposed to turn around from that experience and try to raise these same people in that same environment. Dude, it ain't gonna happen.
No.
If you complain about it, like it's almost like the people who claim to be at the top of the totem pole in the specific system have this built-in system to where they don't want to get criticized for any of the behavior that happened while they quote unquote are in charge of the organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Known Accountability Act,
Yeah.
is basically written into black law at this point. You're not allowed to criticize me. No one could judge me. Only God can judge me. Prayer hands tattooed on my arms, and all eyes on me tatted on my Tupac, my belly, right? Because they usually don't have a six pack. They just have a Tupac. Tupac so poor. The mentality is what if there is a proclaimed civil war in the black community, it's over values. So too big to fail, too broken to fix because the values are broken.
And it's not like they're getting replaced by new values every day, though.
Mm-hmm.
This is the problem that we have. Not only are we in a disabled state, it's kind of like a compound fracture
Mm-hmm.
to where amputation is only the solution here.
Mm-hmm.
Amputation is the solution here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that the limbs of the black community have gangrene.
Yes. And it's not like we talk about it like we glee in the result of it. It's sad to think about.
Mm-hmm.
You think me looking at a child who's down in the Mississippi Delta, I could look 1 in 3, 1 in 5, 1 in 7, 1 in 17, 1 in 24 chance that you get out of that shit.
Right.
At your current state. Not changing nothing about your life. And I have to walk up to a kid and just let them know, dude, you made the principal's list or the assistant principal's list. Man, you got to keep doing this because your family ain't going to feed you.
Mm-hmm.
You think I like doing that? Walking up to a child, 5, 6 years old, and letting them know that your parents are going to do far more to destroy your life than any white person in this room.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for them to get at 5 or 6 years old, but I only got so much time with them, right?
Right. Right. And this idea of this new black community is centered around the current existence with more wealth, right? More, not even wealth. Let me take that back. Cash flow. That's why they, cut the check. Give me the money right now, and that's all that really matters. So no political organization, no institution building, no technological insight, nothing. Just it's just write your John Hancock and sign the dotted line, and we'll take the rest from here. And that's a disaster in itself. So you say too big to fail, too big to fix. What is too big to walk away from, maybe, but too broken to fix. I would say absolutely, it's too broken to fix in that area.
I mean, man, but you have to take everything that you can with you and get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
I've not told any of my cousins anything different.
Mm-hmm.
Take what you can and get out of there. You think you need another son or daughter, do you need to look around? You don't need any of that. You need to clean out your emotional closet about giving a fuck about shit that ain't got nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is how they operate in other cultures. You know, they don't wait for straight A students before they go do what the fuck they supposed to do. They're not waiting on that. They don't even care about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you really had your shit together, you'll be getting them straight A grades in like 11th grade. Guaranteed
Mm-hmm.
scholarship to college, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they care so much about the player being brought along to where they don't want to think about life without those people.
Mm-hmm. What's going on, Triple X?
Peace to the chat. What's going on, Mike V? Man of tomorrow. What's going on, gentlemen?
What's going on?
Hey. Yeah, from what I'm hearing for this conversation, really good discussion. MOT made some really good points in this discussion. You too, Mike. I like what I'm hearing from both of you guys, man. I think one of the main issues in the community, man, is that, obviously, lacking the structure and family values that's needed. At some point within every, not just community, but within every family, somebody needs to appoint a headship and leadership to certain men. That needs to be appointed. First of all, the men need to be in a position to hold that ground, but they need to be appointed so they can add some direction for the women and the younger men that's coming up in that family. Without that, without any structure, I mean, you're just gonna get a bunch of people that's on the wild and loose, man. And I think that's what we're witnessing and experiencing right now, and what we've experienced real heavy the last 2 to 3 decades in this community. So, that's definitely needed. MOT touched on something earlier about the guy that was the minister or whatever, and then not being able to make that correlation with employment, and actually, going with employment for the members for the church. Yeah, and I think that's affecting most, if not all, almost all of these preachers and ministers. They seem to be completely out of touch with that reality. Everybody is essentially looking for some sort of opportunity or come up. I mean, that's just how the game works. If I get $5 million tomorrow, the first thing my mom and family members are thinking, what can Triple X do for them? I mean, that's just how it works. Everybody's looking for that. So, I mean, they just need to start being more realistic, man. And if they really care about the community, they'll be willing to make some changes. And the type of money, we're investing in the Black church, I mean, over $4 billion in the last 30 years or so. I mean, we have to start seeing some sort of return to the actual community, from the church. That's all I got for right now. Go ahead, guys.
No, cut the check. That's what the response is. Cut the check.
Yeah, secure the bag. Like, if you listen to everybody around here, secure the bag, cut the check. That's
Well,
hey, that's everybody's attitude right now, man.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where we're stuck at, that one area of a cyclical loop of give me the loot, cut the check, get the bag, secure the bag. It's never about political empowerment. It's never about institutional building. It's never about globalized markets. It's never about cross continental Pan-Africanism. It's never about any of that stuff. It's always down to the dollar.
Well, I'll say this too. That's a great point, Mike. People often forget, and I know it's a lot of younger people in a lot of these panels and discussions, but people often forget money at its most essential point is a tool, you know, and it's a tool. Money is a tool. Now, it's certainly a lot of situations where money is definitely needed, man. I mean, it's needed for survival, shelter, food. I mean, and when it comes to current politics, it's definitely needed. I mean, we had a black political union, and we had funded a huge amount of Obama's two particular presidential runs, and we had an agenda set out. We could have got a lot of stuff accomplished and passed, man. Just like LGBT and immigration people. People were voting for this guy off the strength of his race and him being a brother, thinking that he would cape up and do stuff for the community. But the reality is you didn't come with the bag, or, you know, etc. So that's how he moved. Mm-hmm. But he definitely did favors, and I mean, as they all do for people who support their campaign. And I mean, we would have had that and had an agenda, a lot of stuff would have got done. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just agreeing with you, but
yeah,
I do think that there are people who like the situation for what it is. They like the community for what it is. So they don't want you changing it. They don't want you, standardizing it, having arranged marriages and things of that nature. They don't want that. They like it broken because it gives them access to women and other resources in ways that they didn't have to work for before.
Yeah, I agree. It's easier for them to exploit and rape the community in that manner.
Yeah, and it's not even a black market, right? Because if it was a black market, and I'm saying black market in terms of like bootlegging and stuff like that. If it was a black market, they would be importing goods from China or Europe or something like that. That would be beneficial for us, and then we can copy the patents and reproduce it, you know, somewhere else and actually make a profit off it. That would be one thing. But you got guys that I've heard on here openly say that drug dealing, there's nothing wrong with drug dealing as long as he's going to feed his family.
Really? They on the Black Brain Trust? Oh, you mean on other panels?
On other panels. I've heard people say this, and this was only about a month or so ago, maybe at that.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Was it just like an open discussion, or was this guy's channel or something, or?
It was a combination of both, but there was a lot of women who supported that, and they were like, yeah.
That's sad, man. That's sad. That's really I'm really disappointed to hear that, man. I probably got a rough idea of who that was too, but
but the point here is that those people always want to be at the forefront of the discussion. They never have anything to contribute to it, and they always feel that if their name isn't mentioned or if they're not at the forefront of the discussion, then somehow, some way, it's not a real discussion. It's not authentic. It's disingenuous. You know, you just a F boy, a silly boy. You know, lame, corny.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, like, so where are you going with your strategy? Where's your 20-year roadmap with this?
They don't have one, man. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, right, and his response was basically, the strategy is to keep working, but work on what? What are you talking about? That's such a vague expression, a vague answer to give. That you keep working on what? What go work a job? I mean, if you work at like Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts, is that like what is the real strategy here? And I understand why they're doing this. They have to obfuscate the answer so that there is no so that it's ambiguous as it can be, so that you can't hold them to anything.
Right.
You can't hold them to anything. And now when you start talking about political infrastructure, and building institutions, now they're like, oh, well, why we gotta do all that?
Right.
Or what's the point in doing all that? Because they're going to be left out because they're not politically literate, and they've really, outside of hanging behind a keyboard, they don't have anything to offer, and they know that, and they don't want to look bad in front of their female subscribers because they know they're going to get their clock clean. If they ever came over here and tried to jump on the panel, they would lose.
I would really like to see them on the panel with you, MOT, and Complex. I think I would just mute up at that point.
Well, you know, we have Zoom, man. We could put 100 people on the panel, man, so it's not a big deal. But the thing is, these guys or these people, for that matter, they like the community the way that it is. They like the lack of political representation for Black men.
Yeah.
They like the idea of the Democratic Party being 89% supported by Black females.
Yeah.
They like the idea of affirmative action working on behalf of Black women, but not on behalf of Black males, unless you're a part of the alphabet society. And they like the disenfranchisement of the Black male. There's an aphrodisiac, there's a bit of a euphoria that comes from seeing Black men in struggle, right? Lack of opportunity, lack of political representation, lack of political institutions, and the waywardness of those Black males. They're okay with that. They're okay with the way the community looks. They like the dirt on the ground, the trash on the ground, the broken glass, the unfixed street lamps that don't come on at night in certain areas. It adds to the mysteriousness of Blackness. And the Black male body and his masculinity is being weaponized for a cause that is unjust. And unjust is what I'm saying. Unjust in the sense that I need to feel, as a woman, I need to feel protected. So therefore I choose underperforming Black male,
right,
to protect me,
right,
from an environment that I helped destroy.
Right.
Hey.
Yeah. Hey, that's deep, Mike. That's facts. Go ahead, MOT. I'll come in after you.
I don't think that's MOT. I think that's Ty City. What's going on, fam?
Oh.
What's up with it, Mike? What's up, Lex? What's up, MOT?
Hey, what's up, Ty?
Hey, I got this theory called generational bleed that I think we've been suffering with, you know.
Is that in one of your is that in your mixtape?
No.
Mike, you a fool.
It's pretty much the old motherfuckers gotta go. And I'm gonna tell you what happens, how we suffer from the old people not leaving. You understand? All the way back to when we weren't willing to fight for actual freedom, but we were marching and going to war for the possibility of freedom. That ideology should have not been passed on. Mm-hmm. That generation bled into civil rights. Civil rights was more along the lines of inclusion, which pretty much made us as Black people the trailer hooked to the white truck. You understand? It'll never be equal to it. It'll never be in front of the truck. You understand? That generation has held on so long, bro, that even to this day, like, that is why we have not been able to make any progress, is because that generation was the marchers and that was no real threat to anybody, politically or economically or anything that affected anything. You know what I'm saying? We still haven't been able to get into this idea of living in a capitalist society, because we have people who think that equality is what we need still, even today, right? So that generation is still bleeding to where we got Barack Obama. That was old people's dreams. You know what I'm saying? That that it resonated as like a pop culture movement to the younger generation, but it really was like an accomplishment. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right.
That did not transpire into anything. And now we're seeing the failures of that generational bleed. You know what I'm saying? With all these marches and all the rest of it, we're seeing that does not work. Now, I feel like the Black community is going to be saved by a method of detachment, even if you have to detach yourself from other Blacks. You know what I'm saying? Because we still got old motherfuckers 50 plus telling us that the issue with our communities is X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? When most of them, they already detached themselves. They really would like to see their way or their method of doing something actually win, but it's not going to happen. They pushing other people to try things their way, knowing that it's not going to work or hoping that it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
Because
yeah. Go ahead,
if you let these old people tell it, you know what I'm saying? A young man who is saying, I don't want a family, I want 3 streams of income. I need to know how to move my weight politically. They look at that as being acting white.
Right. That's one of the main problems in the community is we've let it come to the point where anytime you want to talk about more progressive stuff like that, man, they automatically associate it with being white. Like, oh, you want to do that? Oh, that's being white. That's being white. We should have, as a community, we should have never, and I'm talking about decades past, it should have never came to the point where they start letting hood dudes determine what's cool or not, man, or what's.
But what I'm saying is, even at the same time, right? The generational bleed. We have outsiders in our community making money. This is not a new problem. This is not a new problem.
No. Go ahead.
This is what I'm saying about these old motherfuckers. They have to go. Period. Like if you over 50, I take what you say with a grain of salt.
Facts.
And I know we should be respecting our elders and all the rest of it, but just think of it, man. Like,
I will say this though, Ty City. I mean, some people over that age have done some good, or would have wanted to steer in the right direction, but maybe they just didn't have the plan or the firepower or be able to pull everybody together to do it, man.
No, I know, but I mean, right now, where we at right now is the people in the past who did try to make a move. You know what I'm saying? These people are few and far between, man.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
They are.
And the people who really was fighting, they got killed. You know what I'm saying? The people,
political prisoners.
The people who didn't want to be on the back, the people who didn't want to be the trailer behind the truck, they got killed.
Yeah,
and I mean that's where we are. See, now we in the information age where the spreading the information. You look crazy trying to spread those old ideas around right now, especially to somebody like me. I'm a logical thinking type person. I don't subscribe to feelings and emotions. I subscribe to results.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, man. To go on what Mike was saying, man. This is it goes back to like decades back, man. When the drug dealer kind of rose to prominence in the community, man. That was the worst thing that could have happened to the community. No longer was the doctor, the lawyer, the engineer the gold star in the community anymore, man, or the businessman wasn't a gold star. It was a drug dealer, and women star didn't matter to a lot of women if he had 2 or 3 or 4 different women, as long as he was kicking out money and getting everybody pregnant and everything, man. And they was okay with it because of the money, man, and the status and the image of the guy being the top guy in the community. I mean, that was the worst thing that could have happened to this community, man, because they set a lot of bold standards, and it helped push a lot of the educated guys out of the community because they became less appreciated. And like you guys was mentioning technocrats and all that stuff earlier, man. Yeah, they've been pushed out, man. So that's who you actually need to help start making a turn and writing this shit, man. You know, like
but that goes along the lines of what I'm saying. I put preachers in that category of old people who got to go.
I agree. And I said that before you kind of. I talked about that a little bit before you came in, Ty City. I don't know if you heard me.
Yeah, I just chimed in. I seen the title. I seen the title, and the first thing that came to mind was these old motherfuckers. They gotta go. They have to. We can't. We can't be. I'm listening.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just gonna say I don't think that they are actually the problem. I think their time is very limited, anyways. I mean, you can see it politically speaking in Washington that those people are starting to leave. John Conyers and many of them are already on their way out. So,
but look, Mike, listen, check this out. We had people who fought against civil rights. They voted against civil rights. They sat on seats all during the 90s. This is what I'm saying. Like for you to go out there and do all this protesting, sit-ins, and all the rest of it, how did you leave the people who fought against you in position of power?
Well, let me touch on Triple X's point, because Triple X brought up an actually good point about the rise of the dope boy in the Carter administration, and maybe even the Nixon administration, but really deep into the Reagan administration, where you see the proliferation of these guys. That was a very short-lived experience, because I remember vividly in the 90s when the feds started doing sweeps, with the 1994 crime bill and all that stuff. The feds came through and swept many neighborhoods and took all those dope boys out the game. So you factor in less than 20 years, the little experience that they had of getting that fast money, the women getting pregnant, the women going out there and buying the designer labels and stuff like that, and getting their wigs and weaves and stuff put in. That was a very short-lived experience. And when you look at them today, they're like, somebody needs to do something about this, right?
Yeah.
Like, wait a second. You was a part of that whole entire movement. The movement that destroyed the very environment that you want somebody else to go in there and fix. How come you're not holding this guy accountable for building pediatric centers?
Yeah, but it go deeper than that, Mike. We talking about people who, because my like I said, my dad's side of the family, they go all the way back, drug dealer. You know what I'm saying? A long line of drug dealers. When we get to the bottom of this, we looking at CIA operatives like Oliver North pretty much get found guilty on federal weapons charges, using that money to fund wars, and he ends up being nominated as the head of the NRA. Last year, he was actually named the head of the NRA. Like, he was part of it, and he got more political power, and people knew exactly who he was. And he was actually on Fox News. He had his own show on a cable network. And he was one of the biggest players of destroying black communities nationwide. And this is documented fact. You know what I'm saying? This is what I'm saying. These old people that don't know politics still don't know the way. They let all that stuff slide. And we have a generational bleed where we have to clean that mess up.
Hey, what's going on, DE Raptor?
Hello?
Yeah, I think DE might be muted. Doesn't know, and he doesn't know it.
Okay, I'm here.
But that's all I'm saying, Mike. Like we do have issues at the local level, but now we have to understand politics and economics because the things that endanger us from the outside are as detrimental the same, you know. If we don't understand what's going on outside, i.e. politics and economics, then we really just cannon fire, cannon slaughter.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, like I said before, in MOT and I were having this discussion earlier. There has to be political organization. There has to be institutional building. And what I hear from these, you know, when I hear from these momos, man, is, you know, just cut me a check and leave me alone. And it's like, you can't be half pregnant on this. You got to have 2 feet in or 2 feet out.
But see, that's what I'm saying, Mike. That comes from people expecting equality. You know what I'm saying? That's like if they just said we're gonna let the trailer be next to the truck. It's not going to happen.
Mhm.
Look, something that something left out here is that I don't know if you guys read about civil rights or were taught about civil rights. And one of the things that came out of the civil rights movement is after Dr. King was killed, they didn't continue his legacy. Nobody was there to further the work that he was doing. What they did was they sent out a couple of people. This program came out of California with a think tank and the University of Stanford. And the program that they set us on is like, we are somebody. Who are you? Somebody can mean any damn thing at all. You know what I'm saying? And then the other one was we are. They started naming us Negro Americans, Black Americans, African Americans, changing the name as with the process of time. The other thing is that they brought in the drugs, and with nobody there to standing legacy, the people who accepted the reins. They had chosen people all over the United States.
Mm-hmm.
You had Jesse Jackson. You had this guy in New York that they gave radio stations to. People in Miami that I know. Every state, every big city was this one black man that they choose, not that the community chose, that they chose. They either put him in Congress, made him a mayor, made him a city, something in politics, and they pushed this program. After Reagan came into office, Reagan changed, not Reagan, but the people who put Reagan in office, because Reagan, whatever Reagan said, whatever Reagan did was not Reagan's idea to do it. It came from somebody else.
CIA.
It came in because Jimmy Carter made an error. Jimmy Carter came in to do the same thing that Barack Obama did. When Jimmy Carter came in, the reputation of the United States was so damaged, because you got to remember that Jimmy Carter came in after Ford and Nixon.
Yep.
And they had damaged the reputation of the United States to such an extent that they had to put somebody in there. And Jimmy Carter wasn't going along with the program. He wanted to do things that they wouldn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what the people did, set him up. You had the Iran-Contra. Then they put the economy into a tailspin. So they got Jimmy Carter out and brought in Reagan. Happy days are here again. What was the happy days? People all over the rich people all over the country were cleaning up, and the poor people were losing, and they didn't recognize that they were losing.
Okay, but okay, look, where does the responsibility fall on people not doing their own due diligence to understand the like what's going on politically? Like
But let me tell you, I'm coming to that. We at the bottom, we were taught if you come up, they gave us Black History Month, and every year, all you will hear about is Dr. Martin Luther King's speech about the wolf and the sheep sitting down together. We were going to be given. You understand? When you start preaching to a people who go into church, and the preacher in the church was singing these songs, we shall overcome. Overcome what? But he's not teaching that. Martin Luther King was teaching that, but he got killed. The other preachers, preachers went into congressmen and mayors, preachers all over, Black preachers all over America got positions that they never were supposed to hold because they didn't have the ability to do it. And all they were teaching is that one day Black and white gonna sit down together and we're all gonna be happy together.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you guys read about this, but this is actually what happened. I came from Barbados. You know what I'm saying? I came here at the time when things were changing. As a kid, I see these things going on. So
it's almost the oldest picture book.
When you have for 50 years, you're being taught from one generation to the next. The next generation, all they're hearing is that things are changing. We are getting more. You know, we are now sitting down with white people. Look at us. They used to show us pictures about how you couldn't sit at the lunch counter, but now you can go into any store and you can do this and you can do that. You can live anywhere you want to, which is not true. But you know, that's the story that they were preaching in school, in church, everywhere you go on the radio. All the Black leaders were teaching this story. So when you're hearing it from your own Black men who you looked up to, who say, yeah, I marched with Martin Luther King. I was there in Selma. I did this, I did that. If you go back and read about Andrew Young, he was one of them. They gave him ambassador ship to keep him in line. Got Jesse Jackson, the same thing. All of the Black leaders got something out of this to teach us the same story and repeat it over and over and over again. And then Reagan brought in the drugs, saturated every community, killed off all the parents. And guess what the little children now are raising up in? The gang program that came out of Stanford. The red and blue, the colors. It came out of Stanford University in California. This was not something that happened by accident to us. We didn't do it to ourselves. This was a plan. And there was nobody there because the only man who saw these things was killed. The only man who was fighting these things was killed. Malcolm X killed. And you got Black people who were involved in this thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's my whole thing is the strongest of the people are not here to pass on. We got the weakest of the weakest people to pass on the weakest ideology.
But see, look, today it's not that you have the weakest. It's that you didn't have anybody to pass on the knowledge to. You didn't have anybody to pass on your knowledge.
But what I'm saying is
the true knowledge of what happened and what you have to do. What you got to teach your children. I have to teach my children, look, this is what happened. And it happened because A, B, C, D. And when I die, you have to pick up this and carry on. And there's nobody there to do that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, we still dealing with people who can easily be preyed upon by their emotions. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that people who are still affected by symbolism and just fairy tales of equality, still, when it's not even like that. It's not even like that between white people. Even white people know they have to compete with each other to become dominant in some way or some form.
That's capitalism. And they teach you. They used to teach you. They used to teach you economics in school. Now it doesn't. They don't teach you that. You gotta wait till you get to college, and then you gotta choose. You know.
Yeah, they took that out in the 90s.
Yeah. American history. American history. What they teach in school in American history now is nothing compared to when I went to high school. When I went to high school, the first person that got me involved in even African history was a Caucasian man. He was teaching African history in high school. He learned African history from a black professor. That's what he told me personally. And when he started talking about Songhay and African kingdoms, you know, it's like, what? Where do you get this knowledge from? So I had to ask him. And he was taught it by a black man. You know what I'm saying? So we have to learn, we have to start teaching our children things. Look, today, instead of teaching ourselves, we are raising up children. I saw earlier this year, the school in my neighborhood, they had graduation from kindergarten. What? Are you kidding me? Kindergarten. And they can't get kids out of high school. They can't get black kids to graduate high school, so they praising them for graduating kindergarten. Kids can't even talk properly. Can't even pronounce English words properly. And they're praising them for graduating kindergarten. When we should be getting our children to graduate high school, go on to college, study.
Whose responsibility is it to educate our children?
Us. But when you take stability out of the black family,
how long has education been a problem within our community?
It depends on what specifically are you asking? Are you saying or what are you asking exactly? That's a vague question.
Okay. Well, has our education within our children been better since we integrated?
Education for black people in this country have always been poor, which is why they came up with HBCUs, right? I don't mean to the extent that they are right now, but I'm saying originally black people have always never had access to high levels of education in the way that
they should have. Okay, so how what have we done in the past to remedy this?
We had
creating all these systems.
Because if it's an old, long-standing problem or issue, what happened?
Integration. Before integration, even though we used to have the worst books, our books were like 10 years behind what the Caucasian kids used to have in their school. But those teachers were black teachers. And when they brought in a subject, they digged into that subject and gave you the information that you needed. So a lot of the kids went on to college. As soon as they're allowed to go into college, a lot of those kids went to college.
Okay, so what I'm coming down to is after so long, after a couple of generations, it becomes your culture.
No, really. What happened to us is that we went into what for better word, white school. We were bused from the black community into the white school. Then they bring the white kids into the black community. If they're going to integrate, then they should have bust both ways. They didn't do that. They bust us into. So what we went into the least what we went into.
It should have wait. It shouldn't have been no busing nowhere. We should have got what we should have gotten as tax-paying citizens. We should have gotten our own schools. We shouldn't have to ship our kids anywhere. But see, that generation wanted to be included so much that they screwed everybody after them, trying to be equal with equality.
Because
But
that was a strategy for the time, right? That was a strategy for the time.
exactly.
Yeah.
If you go
Now you're looking at it from hindsight, you're like, yeah, we should have did something different. But
No, because even like I said, during the Great Depression, we were separate. We didn't suffer like the white society did because we were on our own.
yes, we did.
We seen what happened on an individual basis. That black people were able to thrive economically. There was no reason for black people to try to be integrated with white people.
Bro, listen, you
what other
talking
option was
about
there?
people who are left out. You're talking about people who are left out. Who look? I don't know if oh my goodness. Look,
No.
they did a study in the U.S. and they saw that the U.S. there were two separate people in the country of the United States, one black and one white, and there was this line. And they figured, you know what? If we let this continue, the country is going to fracture by such and such a date. Moynihan wrote about it. If you want to go read it, go read Moynihan report. They had two separate countries existing with one. It's not the first time that they realized that. They realized that when they started sending people back to Liberia. But anyway, they decided that they're going to integrate, that they had to integrate. And they tried to integrate, especially the black male, because they wanted to make the black male the head of the household just like the white male was. But it didn't go that way. What happened is that the white woman stepped in, became a minority, took what the black male was supposed to get. And
that's what I'm saying. Like, what is?
Well, hold on, bro. Hold on. Now, the second part of this is that you went to a white school and you were supposed to study the same thing that he's studying. You got the same books in the same classroom. But a lot of us went to that school, seeing the white kids, and the white kids were doing some really crazy things. They were the teacher in my class. I see white kids roll up paper and throw it, hit the teacher in the back of the head. This is 1970. No black kids in the class could do that. We went home with the attitudes that we see white kids with. We took them back to our neighborhoods.
Okay, so it was worse. That's what I'm saying.
But there, what was the alternative, Ty?
The alternative was fight for your own.
How? You're living in a country that's controlled by somebody. You're not the government.
The height of
the government is controlled by the Caucasian. You do not make policy.
the height of the 50s and the 60s. You're talking about coming out of the Korean War, with this.
Which we fought in.
Well, let me make the point. Coming out of the Korean War, going into gold, dollars, and power. We did a whole entire live stream about that. The United States was surrounded by what they considered to be communists, as well as political upheaval within their own country. They were under attack by their reasoning.
But see, this is what I'm saying. Whenever you hit yourself on to the white man, you have to take on all his issues and conflicts too.
But who else you gonna hit yourself to? Africa as a nation they had destroyed it. Every nation in Africa was fighting for their independence. The leaders were being killed, just like leaders in Black America were being killed. Who are you gonna hit yourself to? A lot of black men who had knowledge and professions left America, went to France, Germany.
Oh, trust me,
Russia.
a lot of black soldiers who fought in Vietnam ended up staying in Vietnam.
Right. We're going off track now. We're looking at.
I'm just saying.
We are looking at who do we hitch ourselves to?
Well,
There's nobody who can hitch ourselves to, and we can't be independent. You cannot be independent in another man's land.
Okay. Okay.
I understand your argument. I understand what you're thinking, what you're
Well,
saying.
because
But
I'm looking at this through the lens. Look at this as a Native American, and you actually fought hard enough to be seen as a sovereign person, and you get to control most of the aspects of your land. You have treaties and everything in place. You refuse to be hitched to this white man.
you're going to the subject that I don't want to go there because
Well, I'm just saying,
you
like,
really don't have you don't really have a lot of knowledge of this. From the statement that you just made, you really don't have a lot of knowledge about Native Americans
I
and the
don't have a
treaties and
lot
all
of
that
knowledge.
because the treaties that you gotta understand that the treaties that they got, they were put on a reservation without the power to run the reservation the way that they want to, that they supposed to.
Okay, do did they gain more than the African Americans?
Minor. They can build a casino on their reservation. That's about it.
And
The government
on the word gambling,
government controls the purse strings to that reservation. When you control the money, the purse strings to their reservation, that's why you see a lot of them are drunk, dying of all kinds of diseases because the schools, who controls the money to their schools? They
so
don't.
you okay? So they get to police themselves.
Yeah, but oh my,
But they
you
have
gotta
no,
understand.
they have no real economy, and they have no real institution to really drive their society as they would like, because like DE is saying that they're basically disenfranchised on their own land.
Thank you,
If you
Mike.
look at the Standing Rock protest, that's what that whole protest was about. Um, big corp came in and took over their land, which goes against the whole entire the treaties that they had already signed in the first place. So what was the value of the treaties if they were able to have their land usurped from them by big corporations? And the only reason that they even came to put a pause on it is because mainstream media caught wind of it through social media. And even that now is still, they're still pushing that pipeline through from North Dakota all the way down to Texas. So this isn't, it's not like they really gained anything big. They really just merely grabbed land, put them on there, and basically told them to shut up, which was which was meant to pacify them for the most part. Now, I say all that to say this, that Black people were never in that position to ever have what the Native Americans have right now. They were never politically organized either. Outside of the civil rights movement, there was no African National Congress like the Africans had in South Africa. There was nothing like that.
I understand you want to look back and say, you know what, we should have done this and we should have done that. Yes, I do sometimes too.
No, I'm looking to the future. I don't look back.
After I look at the whole situation, you can change going forward. And my thing is that every generation, like my generation, decided, you know what, we're gonna send our kids to school, try to make them better than we are. We're gonna give them everything that they want, and we failed because we turned our kids into wimps. Serious. I look at my kids, and my son said he wanted a Corvette, and I finally had to say, you know what, hell with that. You're not getting my money. If you want to work, if you want it, you're gonna work for it. Because I gave his brother a car before him, the other brother a car before, and he thinks that he's God now, the youngest one. So we spoil our children. My generation, we spoil our children.
Is he a subscriber to the Black Brain Trust? I mean, we had a car talk last night.
I tried I tried to get him into the Black Brain Trust. And his mom is like
yesterday too, man. Wouldn't let me on. Y'all lucky.
But that's the problem we have. Every generation, just like my generation, when we took over from the Martin Luther King generation, had to decide which direction we want to go. We said, you know what, we want education, and that's what we did. A lot of us went to college you know what I'm saying, and got out. Even if we didn't finish it, some got 2-year degrees, somewhat 4-year degrees, but they went to college. They figured that if I got a college degree, I could get a better job, and integration is going to work for me. That was an error, you know. But we're looking at it from our generation. Now you come along and you say, you know what? My father's generation, it didn't work for him. So now we have to try something different, you know. And that's what your generation have to do.
Well, but that's what
my generation and build on it. You know what I'm saying? Take away what's good, and then you have to build on it, and then do the same thing for your children. You show your children what's good about your generation.
But here's the thing,
and then build on that.
At this point, the things that were actually gained through all those movements, how can you build upon any of it? From affirmative action to all of that stuff is being co-opted.
Yeah, but bro, let me tell you something. You can build, say, your neighborhood, right?
Yes.
You didn't have to let drug dealers in your neighborhood.
No, I'm with you.
But it's the leadership, you know what I'm saying? If you let somebody who's dependent on that money, if my wife kicked me out of the house because the government said you can't have a man in your house and we're going to give you benefits. She wants benefits. She wants to be in charge. Now she kicked me out of the house. She got to raise the kids. She raised the kids. One of them, she raised the kids to be her husband. What she does, your father was no good, useless.
No, trust me, I understand all of that.
So now the kid now looking for a father, he goes down and finds the neighborhood drug dealer, and you know he goes that direction.
No, I understand all of that. I understand all of that. What I'm saying is as far as right now, I believe that we are at the illusion that we have political power that we just don't have.
You're right that we don't have any political power. I don't think there's an illusion behind that.
No, I actually think we do. I think we think that Black Lives Matter and all the rest of it is actually political.
Well, they are political instruments, though. They are political instruments.
I think they social instruments, but I don't think they're political instruments.
Well, it forced the White House to actually look at some of the activities that have been happening. So that is political, right? Well, it gave political results. I understand what you're saying, but Black women are the face, are the political face of the Black community, anyways. If you look at their numbers, they're definitely the political representation of the community, be it as it may. Black men have been politically disenfranchised, so therefore they don't have any real representation. At least we thought Obama was going to come in and actually be that representation for Black males across the board, and that turned out to be a fallacy too. So I don't know if there's that much of an illusion of political power.
Okay, so my thing is the Black community will survive, but it's not going to survive off old principles and ideas. That's my stance on it.
No, you're right. You're right about that. You're absolutely right about that. So, new ideas, new instruments need to be cultivated, and that's sort of the discussion that we're having tonight. You know, is the Black community too big to fail, or is it too broken to fix? I didn't get.
Okay, so look, check this out, Mike. Can the things that we have to do in order to correct it, do you think people will be able to stomach how far we would have to go to make real change?
I don't stomach what?
Because I think it's going to be extreme measures.
Name an extreme measure.
An extreme measure will be something like, let's just say, getting the economics right. You got to push people who aren't in the interest of your neighborhood out of your neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of those people are related to the very same people that are going to push them out. A lot of those
And
women
but
having
and
children. A lot of those women having children with those men, building families with them, or what's alluded to be in the family. It that becomes messy, and I understand what you're saying. It does become messy, but I think that there are other priorities that we should set first.
no, I understand that. Yeah, it's gonna have to be a multi-angle approach. I understand that.
Mhm, mhm. So I didn't get an answer from DE. Um, the question for the night is: the black community too big to fail? Too big to fail, or too broken to fix? I think he's gone. All right. What's
I'm here. I'm here.
okay?
We're not too big to fail. As a matter of fact, some people are planning our failure.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you, well, I know you might, you're looking at it, you see it, because you can see the division and how instead of working to keep it from being divided, how some people are working on dividing it. And not only dividing it here, but dividing it from the other people who we can get support from, or we should get support from when we need it. It's supposed to be an international effort. That's how it's going to work, because now the whole planet is like international. You know, you got corporations that run things
Mhm.
from one country to another. You know,
Hey,
countries are being integrated. Country and country are being integrated. You got like the EU being formed. You got like the South American, the Caribbean countries, they're coming together, not independent countries anymore. And while everybody is coming together, we are being divided. So the people who are planning our failure. So we're not too big to fail.
hey,
And
Mike. Hey, Mike.
What's up?
I got some this guy in the chat. Brother, truth be told, said, "Dude, how can you push people out of your neighborhood? Has anyone ever done this? Go try and set up a business in Chinatown. Go to Chinatown and start your business."
now we go to Chinatown. You guys see Chinese work like that, you know. If you come into Chinatown, if you're a Chinese, you come into Chinatown, you don't want to go to the rules, they kick you out. The same thing. I don't know. You guys watch The Godfather. When her brother come to The Godfather says, "But you've been around here all these years. You never come to me and say good morning. You never bought me. But now you need my help. You coming to me.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
those communities will kick you out. They will kick you out.
And
So we gotta do the same thing.
you also have to take into consideration a lot of those Chinese people in Chinatown who are working there are actually there's laws and stipulations that allow them to bring in people from China to work there. I think they're allowed up to 15 um, immigrants to come on visa or something like that to work there. A lot of those people are either family members or distant family members or something like that who came out of dire poverty in China to actually be there. So there's an incentive for them to maintain the environment for what it is. Whereas in predominantly black neighborhoods, you don't even control those neighborhoods because there's no political organization in those neighborhoods to begin with.
Mike brings up a hell of a point. Many of these people came in from China. They come from the same villages. They come through the Democratic Club of Chinatown. So they come actually through a party club, literally, that has banks and everything else like that set up. And they bring
Cafe
most of
Pacific.
they bring most of these people in from many of the towns and villages that their people have come from. So they're not only of this, kind of the same people, but they're bringing people in from their home communities into their American community as well. So it's actually contiguous.
Mhm.
It actually is it hasn't really it doesn't change. It's just, so they have the same customs, they know the same folks, and that's kind of how they roll. They play a very close to their vest. They have a very there's a lot of abuse and stuff that goes on as well. Don't think that they don't have that going on, but they keep it very close. They play very close to their vest, and few people really know what's going on inside their community from the outside.
Yeah, and the girl I used to deal with before, man, she's Chinese, man. Her father runs a business in Chinatown as well, man. And the way they operate it, man, they run pretty lean, man.
Yeah, they do.
They run pretty lean. So there's
Love
there's all types of delegates and stuff like that represent Chinatown and all that stuff. They're very well organized.
Hey, Mike, here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, we got a Chinatown, a Vietnamese town, a Laos town, and they all link together politically to make something happen. It's not like African Americans, Nigerians, and Korean. You know what I'm saying?
The experience is a little bit different. The experience, because they speak a similar language, right? So what insulates them is linguistics. For us, what insulates us is our experience. That's it. But if you have Black people who can't even get along on a hangout on a panel, Horner, can you mute yourself, please? Yeah. What insulates us is our experience, but you can't even get Black people to get along enough to even have a conversation on a hangout, man. I don't know if we can ever get to that point. Vietnamese actually up here. They at least gentrify the Irish out of their own neighborhoods. In the 80s, man. So you imagine white people being displaced by the Vietnamese, and those communities are very much thriving right now with all types of Vietnamese businesses and business alliances and neighborhood what they call them, block captains and stuff like that, man. They're very well organized, man. And I'm saying all this because Black people could actually copy that template rather than hide it behind a hashtag. They should actually copy those templates. And what it looks like to me is that they don't see any incentive in actually doing any of this. They kind of just like cut the check.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The whole reparations thing is built on the illusion of equality. Like, don't even get me started. I'm not doing it.
Mike, let me finish answering the question. Are we too broken to be fixed? No. We can fix the problem, but in an international society now, the problem becomes international. It's no longer domestic. Before, we were forced to build our own business and try to make it work here. But now we have to form international alliances. If we try to go it alone, failure is going to be more as failure as a community, not as an individual. Individuals everywhere are going to succeed. I mean, you can open a business or you can become employed, and you will succeed in your profession or in your business. But as a community, we have to form alliances with other communities and it doesn't have to be alliances with communities here. It can be communities internationally. Like we can form communities in Brazil or Africa or wherever you choose to.
And international business
will help us to succeed. If you see corporations doing the same thing, you see a corporation who makes cars here, and they will have a subsidiary run by Chinese in China. Yep. Chinese factories they will have a Chinese own a factory in China, and he's got a subsidiary in the Philippines or Taiwan or Thailand, and they all working together.
Mhm.
You know, that's what frustrating the U.S. Trade wars right now, because they're changing things around. So you see how that international contact works, because you now have the ability to think omnidirectional. You not only your African partner is dealing in Africa, and you suppose you have an oversupply of equipment here, you can ship it to your partner in Africa. Your partner's got a supply chain that he can, you know, supply people in Africa, or he can supply Europe or Asia. So now you got to work like that in order to survive. So we can be fixed, but like man Ty said, you're gonna have to take extreme measures, because the majority of people are comfortable with what they're doing. And when you have the majority being comfortable, it's got to take something in either economics or health. When their economics are threatened, when they can't find food to eat, that's when they will change. Or when they're facing death, that's when they will change. That's what happens. That's what I see with black people also.
Let me get Horner in. Horner, you have anything you want to add? Horner, do you have anything you want to add? Casina, do you have anything you want to add? All right, going once, going twice. Horner, do you have anything you want to add?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, perfect. Yeah, no, I just stumbled into this channel, to be honest with you, in my mentions, and I seen some of you guys' videos. So I'm kind of I seen you guys live right now. I'm not sure what the topic of discussion was, so I was just listening along.
Really? So the topic of discussion is the black community too big to fail or too broken to fix? What's your opinion on it?
So the context, or are you talking about in terms of the societal issues that's facing the African American communities, or?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's not so much function of what the African American community can do, but it's because there's always that white variable that you have to sort of figure out, you know, as you tag along with dealing with your own issues, because other groups profit off of your issues that you guys deal with in your communities. But you know, I've always been of the opinion that, you know, the only real solution is the African Americans having their own nationhood,
Okay.
not being ordered or not being under the syllabus of the white majority affluence, so to speak.
Too late for that.
Where were you from?
I'm second generation. I'm originally from Somalia,
Okay.
but I was born in North America here. So my feelings are kind of like towards your guys' line of thinking, because and it's funny because I'm always stumbling upon, you know, African American videos or ADOS videos in general, because my thought of my process, the way I think, is more aligned towards what you guys are.
Are you Canadian?
I'm Canadian, yeah.
Mm-hmm. A. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, no, like I relate more to you guys than the people back home, because my my culture or the way I see things is more along the line of, because especially being a Canadian, we're basically just the 51st state of America. So, the Canadian culture is not that far off from American culture. It's pretty much the same. Even accents is pretty much.
I would be interested to know from a Canadian perspective, does the reparations argument or debate ever come up there as well?
Mm-hmm. Horner, can you hear
Horner?
us? I think he's having mic issues.
He might be having that.
Yeah, I want to go to this other person, Gesina.
The Japanese loved it.
Hey, Mike.
What's up, man?
Okay,
No.
out here in Texas, we got.
Oh, Ty, I'm trying to.
Not gonna help you. They're not Indian. And you've been here now too much to listen.
Do you have anything you want to add to this discussion?
And he was just the look on his face, and
You have anything you want to add to this discussion, Gesina?
just eating him up. They love him because he. And they hated him because I was angry at leadership. They would just be so scared to just make they want. But you have to be people to fail.
Yeah, this always happens every once in a blue moon, and I'm glad that we have Zoom and we don't have the old Hangouts. We have these racist trolls who come onto our panels. They always seem to invade Black spaces. What infuriates me is that whenever you see these guys in person, when they're by themselves, they're scared to look at you, scared to make eye contact. They don't want any trouble, but they'll get behind a keyboard and they're so brave to come on and protected spaces. And then they wonder why guys like me, when I see you in a dark alley or behind a building, I just break your fucking jaw. And I have no qualms about it.
Hey, Mike, listen, man. Look. These guys are always here. They're always looking. They always want to see what's going on. They're watching what you do. We should be watching what they do as well. They're always here. They're worried. They're definitely worried. They're worried and they're here. That guy sounded like, man, he sounded like Satan. But but they're watching. They're definitely watching. And they're listening to everything you do. I just want to let people to understand that, the Black community is watched. It's watched heavily. That's all I have to say about that. And they do that for quite a few reasons. But one of the things they're more worried about than anything else is the Black community getting a kind of a unified mindset. That is what they really fear. Because they understand the minute you do that.
The minute you get off this bullshit equality fairy tale mythical dream you in, the minute where you say we can compete just as hard, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you about
the jig is
Got
up.
that right, Ty. They scared. I'm serious. The minute you start talking like that, you put the fear in them.
You better believe it.
And you got to understand, why are they fearful? So that's why, people, there's a lot of vested interest in keeping you not thinking clearly. Like I say, get your mind right. There's a vested interest in your mind not being right. They put a lot of money into that. A lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money into that. I just want get your mind right. There's a lot of money being invested to see to it you do not do exactly that.
Yeah, but and see, that's what I'm saying about doing things the old way. They have tactics to go around these marching, these little movements, these hashtags. They have already found they cannot go around logical thinking. They have to meet it head up.
Well, that they don't want to deal with that. They understand it. We want to talk about what new solutions. There are no new solutions. We have old solutions. We've had communities that worked together. And remember, not everybody loved each other. You don't have to everyone have to love each other, but you have to have a common interest. You know, we do talk about the classic Tulsa and so forth, where you had that dollar spinning around in your community 100 times before it went out. I mean, you had that. What did they do? They destroyed it. They came in, vacated civilization. They would call themselves civilized. They vacated what they would consider to be civilized. They vacated that, became uncivilized, and attacked your community. They declared war, declared savage, bestial war on it. So that's how much they fear you get. And what they fear, why did they do that? They feared you putting together an economic power. They didn't want you to be united economically. They didn't want that. This they didn't want. So they feared it, and they vacated all their bullshit about being civilized in this. They quickly vacated that and went straight to bestial savagery and took and took. I mean, this history here, and that was the only community. This happened many times. So you have to understand what's going on with these people, and the answers are here. It's just a function of whether or not we choose to reach out and do this. That's where we're at. For a big part of our community, our mind is not right.
And see, that goes back to what I said earlier. All the logical thinking people from the past got killed.
Well, I'm going to say this. I was at a function today up. It was a business function. I was up in Albany, and I'm just getting back, and I am tired. But anyway, I had a conversation with a Black young lady. What was disturbing about it was we started talking about some of the issues that were going on in the community, and I'm talking about IT and some of the other things that we were getting into. Getting into the whole IT game, and somehow it came around to relationships, and we started talking, and I said, well, Black men, on the whole, and here there were other Black IT executives and other recruiters and stuff that were there, and they were women, but a lot of top IT guys, IT now people who were in IT were brothers, and I said, well, it's the 6-to-1 level of Black men who are making more six figures than Black women, and she got mad. And then she also got angry at saying that Black men were shown to be some of the, the best fathers. She looked at me and got angry about that. And I sat down, I backed up. I said, I'm not going to get into this thing here. But here we are, we're divided internally. I mean, we that relationship piece between Black men and Black women, we do have to deal with this at a certain level, because a lot of the information that we have about ourselves is not out there. And I don't want to break it down to that. But I do say, we're going to talk about our community and really get together, we're going to have to really, really look at each other for who and what we really are, as opposed to what we would like, how we would like to see things. And that's one of the things that we're going to have to get together all the way around. Our relationship piece, we're going to have to talk about, how we interact with each other, man to man as well, and really start the vibe. I can say this on a technical level, business level, at certain points. Brothers get it. Some of us brothers who are playing at a certain level, we get it. The question of it is, can we help to bring many others along? And we have a lot of internal fractures and factions inside of our community that we really going to have to deal with. This is going to be kind of tough. We're going to have to deal with this. We're going to have to really get real with ourselves first. Getting our mind right, that is our biggest deal here. Getting our mind right, and that's going to be a function of information, dealing with some very hard truths, being very, but key information has got to be put out there, and we all have to, be very serious about looking at who we really are at this stage, and just looking at what the facts are, and just getting real with the facts, and let's start to move away from certain types of narratives that are being pushed. I know the Manosphere attempted to do this, but I think, you know, the Manosphere is only going to go so far. We have some deep-rooted issues in our community that we're going to have to really face to really, you know, to get our acts together here. Brothers who are working hard together, who've kind of come through some of the same processes, seem to understand this. We're getting it. I can say that. Maybe not enough of us are, but we're getting it. And we're just gonna have to really get back to the fundamentals. And one of the biggest key factors in this gathering and being very real about these fundamentals is truth. We're really gonna have to get with truth, man. It's just, man, like my old man said, it's gonna be a little vulgar here, but man, some of these truths are gonna be a tough titty to suck for some of us. And we're gonna have to get with that. That's a big part of what we're gonna have to get back to the fundamentals, and part of the big fundamental piece that we're gonna really get with this truth. Looking at ourselves truthfully, realistically. I'm done.
Okay. Who did not go yet? I know MOT is asleep. Yeah, I think everybody went for the most part. Triple X, you were you born in Detroit, or? I think Triple X is asleep too. Yeah, a lot of cats asleep.
Hey, hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here where I stay, right? They have black communities where people have gone on to the middle and upper class. So we have like black neighborhoods where it's kind of upper class, and they politics way different. Like, they do not play no games. They make sure you are knowledgeable too in the local politics and what's going on. They always have signs up, different things going on, meetings and stuff like that. It's like it's a few different like suburbs, little pockets of black communities where they got big houses and stuff like that. That's what they got out here going on. So what would you see something like that happening where just new black communities start taking off?
Well, I think MOT has talked about this in the past, but you know, I think for the most part we need to start acquiring land, and developing our own neighborhoods and houses, and if not our own cities, and possibly our own counties. And then we build our own police forces. We build our own fire, first responders, and other small institutions. It doesn't have to be mega hospitals, but your urgent care facilities, the very things that will be viable for creating this sort of 2030 agenda, 2040 agenda. That stuff can actually be done, and we have to be more attentive to our living conditions. You know, I know a lot of cats like to have these big houses, but there's a possibility, man. You know, back in Barbados, they don't have these big houses like this. It's unheard of. You have just enough to survive off of, and that's about it. My grandmother still had chickens and roosters and stuff like that on her property in her backyard. Still had the milk delivered to her every day.
You bring up some really good points there too, Mike. I mean, earlier, the truth. We're not going to be a wealthy community if we're not going to be moving forward if we don't bring wealth and turn it over in our community. We are going to have a developed, well-educated, well-financed Black community. That's the only way we're going to make it. Not going to have it. Can't have one little group here trying to make it, some other little and large part of some other group. It's not going to work. We have to get with very hardcore reality. We got to get with some hardcore truths here. Not gonna happen. All right, you disparate, impoverished, poorly educated. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Baby mama ism, baby daddy ism running around. Not gonna happen, man.
Hey, you know what? You got young guys saying that they're not gonna have children, or they're not gonna get married, or they're not gonna even participate in dating or none of that until they get all of their finances in order. And you got people pushing back against that.
It will be well. These are full people. You have to really.
These is old people doing it. The pushing back of.
We really got. I mean, we really got. What I'm seeing certainly. I think maybe Mike may be able to speak to this in the black IT sector and so forth. That's going on in some of these corporations. It's very interesting things are going on. With black groups are getting together and people are starting to hire each other and starting to do certain kind of things behind the scenes. That's kind of amazing. It's highly butter laid what's happening in certain sectors, and we need to expand that. And other corporations are seeing this, and they're not as fearful of it as you might think, because at the end of the day, you're going to find it's about talent out here, and people are going to go where talent is, because there's a group of folks out here who are saying you're getting into a more global market, and it's coming out of town, and you're going to have to develop a talent bank, and some groups are doing it. We can easily do this and turn this thing around very quickly, a lot faster than most people can believe. But we're really gonna have to work together on this, and I'm just putting that out there. And Mike, maybe you might want to speak to this a little bit, because you're in the IT world. Maybe you might want to kind of just expand upon it just a bit, just a tad bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's still room for a black IBM.
But there's still room. You
Yeah.
gotta a lot more than a little room. So, oh boy, it's more wide open than you can imagine. But anyway, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's still a lot of room for a black IBM. You know, the main bread and butter for a corporation like that would be for people who can write code. So you're going to need to cultivate the next generation over the next 5 to 7 years to start writing code, and we can code our way out of the situation. Because what we in the IT sector consider now is that infrastructure. They consider infrastructure as code. So now you're talking about, instead of building servers, with hardware, now you're talking about building infrastructure with just lines of code. This is the new wave of information technology, and we can actually battle line for line on this aspect, and employ at the very least 2,000 people starting. If you're just going to write code, this is how Facebook survives, just writing code. So there's ways to go about this. I think from an IT perspective, we're just not teaching, the next generation the sufficient skills necessary so that they don't have to go to college long term. Yeah, maybe you might do an intro to CS 101, but this comes with what I spoke about before: social equity, building social equity programs that's going to allow us to leverage our public libraries in these predominantly black neighborhoods as infrastructure for learning institutions, so that you can send those kids in those predominantly black neighborhoods to the library to have these classes, to get a certificate or a nano degree, whatever you want to call it, and then they can come work for us through these business incubators, business accelerators, and startup accelerators that allows us to actually build into viable markets. And now you have a competitive market. which is a multi-trillion-dollar market, and by next year it's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar market. AWS, Microsoft Azure, Oracle, all of these big legacy corporations and new corporations, there's still a lot of breathing room.
And there's nothing stopping you. There's absolutely nothing stopping you. So there's absolutely nothing stopping you.
Mhm.
You know, so we have to really look at ourselves, and you know, I'm sorry to say this. Wow, I had to say it today. I didn't get into it, but wow, this is not. I mean, I've talked about this all the time, and I've seen it, but I don't know, man. You know, this black woman thing. We perceive. There's some of us. There's a large number of us who perceive ourselves as enemies. We're going to have to find a way to get around that. We're going to have to find a way around that at some point in time.
Mhm.
Soon, we're going to have to deal with this issue. Got to deal with this, man.
Hey, Nabone, one question I had to ask you: How? This is not being facetious. How are you going to get a guy who dropped out of high school to hang on the block, off the block, to go to the library and get this free education that Microsoft or any other big
No,
tech
it's not
company
about
do?
him. It's not about him.
But if you want to ask very quickly, it's not. But Mike's right. But just to answer your question and how you're putting it, he's got to be shown. He's got to be shown to see exactly what can happen. People are not that stupid. You have some guys that here that are out there that are totally that are totally moronic. But they're going to be some of these people out here that are going to look at this and say, homosexuals ain't going to do this. You know, that's the reality. People have to see that this is definitely an exceedingly viable option. They have to see it. They have to be exposed. Big part of this is exposure to it, man. They've got to see it. They've got to see it, and that's a big part of our issue. Expose these people to this, they'll see it, especially when they start seeing the money being made. Because a lot of these guys just want to make money. And if you could show somebody how they can make XYZ per hour and do XYZ to get this or get to the next level or do reach some of the goals that they might want to see, if they look at this as it being a viable option and they see what's going on out there, the people will look at it. You know, big part of our problem is definitely getting our people well educated, well informed, well educated. And this is not about spending zillions of dollars. You don't need zillions of dollars to educate and give people good information. You don't need it. You don't need that. That information is out there. And that's a lot of what we really have to do. It's dissemination of information is very key. When you look in communities that seem to move forward and do very well, there is a constant flow of information that they're getting. And a lot of them are not sharing it with others. That's what's giving them the advantage. But they are constantly being informed about what's going on and where they need to go in which to in which to succeed. You can look at, I mean, the nursing industry years ago. You had the Jamaicans coming in, and then the Filipinos came in. Filipinos come into the country and they immediately go to nursing school and they're taking over these nursing programs, and then they're in these hospitals all over the place. And, they've got a network of people constantly feeding these people into it, a network. They've got these networks working all the time. And that's what we really have to, that's a big part of what we have lost. I understand why our schools have been shut down, why you've been redlined, and we've had these issues. A lot of that is to keep you from really networking properly. Some of it has worked, but we could certainly turn this around. We can get into all the details on that or how we think that can happen, but I just want from a general overall picture, yes, we can get that guy on the corner just to show him exactly what the potential, what his options really are. I believe many of these people will take a different path than the ones that some of them are getting on. Yeah, I certainly believe that.
Well, we have to stop thinking about taking the high school dropout and turning him into this miracle case study. When we talk about, building these institutions out of the public infrastructure that your tax dollars pay for, we're talking about your 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds. If you look at Bill Gates, you look at Steve Jobs, you look at Mark Zuckerberg, all of these people got started in their toddler years. They were reading very efficiently at 3 and 4 years old. They were writing code by 8, 9 years old.
Certainly.
So Nagone talks about a 17-year-old who was impeccable at Unix. That didn't just start when he turned 17. That was something that started when he was 6.
Yeah, I mean, he was exposed to this stuff very early. He had early exposure. He was exposed, and I'm saying that's all we have to do. Is expose our children. We have to expose them. The guy in the corner, just like he can pick up, a plumbing program, or HVAC or anything else like that. We can do the same with coding, IT, and all that. We can do the same. And it's all here. It's just really a function of, I hate to say it, but it's a function of us. Well, I don't hate to say it. I mean, it's a function of us really putting a lot of this together. We really have to do a lot of this work. White man ain't, if you're waiting for the white guys to come through and help you, it ain't gonna go down like that. It's gonna have to be, by us, like Mr. Smith, who people want to say is not for the Black community or whatever. Yet he's paying for people's educations and these types of things. We have to consistently work with those who are who are going to advocate for our education. And I personally believe it's about education for us, and information. That's what I believe is what will turn so much of this around. It's becoming much more much more loaded with information. This is all about information, knowing what's going on, having options. That's what a lot of us don't feel that we have. And from the time we're very young, and moving up through the school systems or through through our communities, many are coming up where they don't feel that they have options. We actually have the ability to change that, because there are plenty of options out here, but many of us just don't know and don't think we can get to them. And Mike talks about the coding projects and so forth. This is really big. There's some very wide open industries out here that we could easily take advantage of quickly. 10 years, turn things around immensely. I know people may find that to be hard to believe, but it really isn't. This is not impossible to do. It's very practical, very down to earth, very doable. Not pie in the sky stuff. Anyway, I'm okay. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, it goes to the question: is it too big to fail, or too big, or too broken to be fixed? I think that there's certain cancer elements within the Black community that needs that needs a little bit of radiation there, here and there. I think that there are other aspects where you're like, okay, we can't stop now. We came this far. What's the point in stopping? So you have to have an agenda, and I think that's part of Black Americans' problem. They don't have an agenda. We covered an article about a week or so ago about the 2016 African agenda. So they're already, we're already 2020 right now. We will be in a few months, and they're working on a 2060 agenda. Black people aren't even thinking about, at least from the conversations I'm seeing on the Manosphere on YouTube. They're not even having that conversation. They're having a conversation about cooking people and pots and things, just craziness. These guys, man, I just don't understand how they get so much support from people, financially too. I don't understand why they get so much support, because they're not really presenting anything that's viable, right? They're just basically pushing a narrative that says, look at Becky in New Hampshire. She's an opioid addict. This is what Black men like, and it's all playing to this sort of cyclical social perspective that says that in order for you to sound intellectual, you have to bash white women, you have to bash black men who don't kowtow to that sort of narrative, and you need to make fun of them as much as possible because there has to be an entertainment aspect to it. So if we had to send some preteens or something like that to these guys to actually get some form of wisdom, they're not going to get much. So in that perspective, this too broken to be fixed. We need to find a way to do something with those people who are too broken to be fixed. The Haitians had a way of dealing with them after they got rid of the French, take them down to the beach.
Yeah, they took them down to the beach and cut their heads off. That's what happened. They hacked their dome pieces off. So I mean, can we do this metaphorically? I believe that some of that is in order. But I certainly also believe, that we're going to have to really fix some of our relationship issues as well, and how we deal with black men on black men, black women to black women, and black women to black men too. That we're going to have to, really kind of deal with that as well. And we're going to deal with that truthfully. And I think a lot of education is going to have to be bought in on that, and just looking at what the real facts are and getting real information out. Once again, like I said, the manosphere certainly took a lot of this on. I don't know how successful it has been. I've seen some success, but then we've certainly seen things kind of roll back a bit. But also we definitely need to expand that in overall community, because we got some real issues. We do have some real issues out here. But I will always say I believe much of our issues really start from the educational perspective, and of course that encompasses a lot of things. The fact that you don't own land is like you should in the community. We don't have the resources coming in and so forth the way we need to really educate our kids the best. Seems like we're doing a better job right now homeschooling them than damn near having them in these public institutions. And I think that's a bit of a failure. So we have to get that working better for us as well. There are a lot of issues here, but education is key. Really, us working together as a community together is our only salvation. It's not going to work with one little group here. It's not going down like that. And the recalcitrance of whites and how they are going to really come against you in the next 10, 15 years as they panic more and more and more. And, you see the Trumps and this kind of stuff consistently moving forward, and the court systems changing, and the Supreme Court making all kind of moves. These guys are going to make a very rough last stand, if you will. People say, well, they're on their last legs. Well, if you think they're on their last legs, they're going to make a last stand. And let me tell you, that ain't going to be no joke. So I'm just telling you, we need to really start thinking about really, getting our community together, coalescing a lot more politically and economically and educationally, because our survival is based on that as well. And there are those out here who do understand this. There are Black folks out here who understand this, understand it well, and we are working together. So, but we need a lot more. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just sharing my screen. Met with the founder of this movement right here earlier this week. Living Open Source Foundation. This is about Africans writing code in Linux and Unix. And the conversation I had with him was based on a cloud computing platform that's open source. And I asked him, what does he think the market is going to look like in Africa and Latin America? And he pointed me to this. He said that Africans are writing code like this, like it's going out of style over there.
Right.
And he showed me this link, and he said, this is what they're doing. He said they're heavily focused on cloud computing because that's where the future is. And he said they've been doing this all year. It just started this year, but they've been talking about doing it the last couple of years, and they finally went live with it. And he said they got it within days. They figured it out within days. So they're heavily focused on cloud computing, the next generation of technology, and they understand it's about writing code. So what I'm saying here is, this is an example that it's already been done.
Mike, how much of this information you think is being disseminated in the Black community? How much of this is really getting out into the community, Mike?
I would probably say maybe 1% at best.
This information is just not getting out there. We are and a lot of that is on us.
Mhm.
We, being truthful, we have to deal with this as well.
They're dominating. They're dominating right now in this regard. So what I was saying before about, leveraging the public infrastructure of your library where your tax dollars are already being spent. Every Black neighborhood has a library, whether it's good or bad. There's one there. There's public funding available for this. We have to be the ones driving this and saying, hey, this needs to be done this way. Foolproof plan. We know that it's happening in other places. The way you boost jobs and things like that is through cultivating talent. And what better way to do it than a program like this? The guy I spoke to this week, man, he had a seminar, and I just randomly asked him this, and he was like, this is exactly what's going on over there right now. So I went to the website and I said, I got to get over there for Rwanda open source event, May 2020. I definitely got to get over there for that, just to see what's going on. Because if they're moving like this, man, they're gonna blow African Americans right out of the water. They're gonna tear you right out the frame, because the talent that is needed over in Africa right now is code developers. That's what they need. But if you're telling me that they're doing this and they're grasping it at a rapid rate, you have to ask yourself, what value are you going to bring to the continent now?
Well, if you're going to come to the continent, you're going to need to come to the continent with resources, and not just money resources, but you have to come with informational, technical resource. You're going to have to come in there with resources, and it's a wide open time. So I mean, I know that there are competing views here. Well, we can just do it all here by ourselves, and we don't need this. We don't need to be dealing with them and all that. And we'll get all into that argument, which is kind of crazy, because when you start looking at, other groups, they have strong connections to their countries. Russia, many Russians, backed up by the Russian government over in Moscow, and they're here. You have Chinese, very much the same, and others. So I mean, they've got communities, if you will, that are really supporting their successes, and we're no different. We're gonna have to operate very much the same way we did. We have, and we're gonna need to really to really increase that. We're gonna certainly need to do that, and there are a lot of options. Somebody mentioned something here about HVAC in the chat, and yes, HVAC and these other areas are great areas to get into. So it's just not all about super high tech, and you've got to be, C++, object oriented, programmer, or some of these other languages. There's a lot of other stuff that we need to certainly get into. So, but people have to be given options. Many of these kids in the Black community don't feel they have options. I mean, we have to make aware what the options are and put forward programs that can help them take advantage of it.
I would go one step further and say we need to start building institutions based on the public funding budget that we already have established. A STEM lab similar to like Silicon Valley. You take some, some of this old construct a space and turn it into a laboratory, 5 to 10,000 square feet, line it up with computers and wireless communications and access to food and drink and things like that, because that's how geeks really operate, man. They kind of eat pretty bad. But the point that I'm making here is you need to create a tech incubator that allows these people to freely think. You can't freely think when you have people pulling out, running up on you with open carry and harass you, and while you're doing a live stream, and people with gold teeth in their mouth trying to eat you because they want to cook you and stuff like that, man. It's rapacious sort of approach that I see some of these people take when it comes to actually building a community. I don't think they have the best interests of it. So you have to create an insulated environment so that they can freely think.
Yeah. There's no question about this. Certain aspects that have to be, definitely removed or removed from the big picture, because there are those who are out here to do some destruction. But there are more out here that I believe would like to have the option to move forward and to be productive, and that's where we got to put our time and efforts more so than anything else. But yeah, you have a lot of you do have some negative entities. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just so dead tired right now. But
no, it's fine. We're gonna wrap up in 5 minutes, anyways. And DE Raptor, were you trying to get in?
No, I'm listening in right now.
Okay, Paul Bryant, my brother, what's going on? Guten Tag.
Hey, what's going on, gentlemen?
What's up, Paul?
Hey.
Guten Tag.
Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen. That's right. Guten Morgen. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
I'm in Germany, so it's 6 a.m. in the morning, but I'm still on Australia time, so my body thinks it's still 2 p.m. and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so I'm all screwed up right now. I don't know whether I'm going or coming or up or down, but the question was, I do believe, is a Black American community or culture too big to fail, or is it too broken to fix? So from my personal point of view, it is too broken to fix. So if we are being intellectually honest, the majority of what you have to work with now are useless eaters. So the idea that you're going to take the high school dropouts, and you're going to take the clowns posted up in front of the corner store or the bodegas, as we call them in New York City, that's not going to happen. If you look at your lowest neighborhoods, you look at your projects, and even if you look at your lower class neighborhoods, not the projects, but still your lower class neighborhoods, the fact of the matter is that represents the bulk of Black people in America. They're not ready to go into emerging tech fields. They're not ready to go into STEM fields. The culture and the society is not geared to turning their brains around to focusing on those fields. Okay? So what does that mean? Your only hope is to how are you somehow going to win the hearts and minds of the youth, getting them young, involved in STEM, when everything else around them is nothing but a culture and a society of BS, failure, complacency, and complaining? So do you there begin to see the upward mountain that you are now scaling? So from my personal point of view, you have to start with those who are of higher means, higher socioeconomic strata, and that's who you focus on. Those who are already in the fields, or those who have the means and the intellectual means, the best performing, the best and the brightest. And that's who you start with. And that is who you use to build a larger new collective. Now, I have some other more radical ideas. I've heard people say, well, are Black people ready for the radical steps, for the extreme steps? I haven't heard any extreme steps yet. what I think, my views are extreme and they are radical. You know, maybe I can go into those in a few seconds, but you know, basically the bulk of what you have right now, you can't work with that. You cannot. You have to focus on your best and brightest and build something new with those individuals. Okay. And that is what a lot of people don't want to look at. A lot of people just want, okay, well, we have black people and we have to have the same. And, you know, we want that black person with his black wife in front of his black house with his black wife and his black 2.2 kids and his black 2.2 cars and his black 2.2 pets. Granted, I get that. I understand that ideal completely. But the majority of what you have to work with, your working stock, for lack of a better term, they're useless eaters. You have to let them go, focus on the best and the brightest, and build something new with them. So that idea that we're all just one giant collective, no, we are not. And you know what? I've heard arguments for 40 years plus about working together and coming together and kumbaya, my lord, and everything else. Listen, that is a pipe dream. That is an emotional argument that can work when you're working with the best and the brightest. Since you're as long as you choose, as long as you insist on working with the majority of what you have to work with now, which are useless eaters, that's never going to happen. If you focus on the small minority, which are the best and the brightest, and propagate that group, then you can build and create a gestalt to go forward and accomplish things. Again, these are
Are you
my
talking
views.
about?
That's my point of view.
Are you talking about more of a talented tenth type of deal?
You know what? I'm well familiar with the talented tenth ideal. Um, we all know how that has or has not worked out. But whatever, I'll say this: whatever term one chooses to put towards them, I just leave it as the best and the brightest. But I won't argue the use of that term, talented tenth. The best, the best and the brightest, whether it's talented tenth. Personally, of my from my perspective, the way that I see it now, it's a talented 2%. It's 2% of the American Black society as a whole.
Mm.
That's my perspective. 2%. That's what you have to work with. If we're being intellectually honest and emotionally dispassionate.
Okay, so look, even the 2% that you seeing, they already on their way pretty much.
Correct. You know what?
Okay.
You look at Robert F. Smith. He has done more to help Black men than a lot of the individuals who cry and bitch and moan about do this and do that, and I'm pro this and I'm pro that. Throw your ankh in the air and pour out the libation. Yet he is continually attacked because he does not exist inside of the black box. He is continually attacked because he has something different on his arm. So it has been my personal observation.
Yeah,
The
it's that
most
white woman there. People talk about the white woman on the song.
correctamundo. It has been my personal observation. The most successful Black men that I have seen in my 40 plus years on this earth, they don't exist in the black box. They tend to inhabit what I say that 2%. It's less than 10, it's 2%. So it's funny how they are the most successful while the majority aren't. So I posit the theory as a social scientist, focus on the best and the brightest, let the useless eaters leave them to their fate, focused on the best and the brightest, and propagate those individuals.
Yes, sir. Um, yeah, sounds like a plan. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button if you have not already done so. Hit that notification bell next to the subscribe button so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those on the community tab. I I don't know. I haven't spoken to Complex, so I don't know if we're gonna even have a cannabis talk tomorrow. But we'll probably have a black car talk tomorrow because I went to
Y'all are so lucky I missed out yesterday. Y'all got lucky. A lot of stuff slid yesterday. A lot of stuff slid yesterday.
Oh man, here this cat go, man.
Here's this guy with his Honda Civics with his beard
Oh man,
sauce on.
I really wanted to make that about I was going to co-opt it and make that about the RS6, man. I can't believe y'all talk about buying a 90. I'll sit there. Don't get me started.
All right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We'll get it going. We'll get it going tomorrow.
Yeah, it's an interesting night though. But thank you all for joining us, man. We're gonna be out of here, man. Peace and shalom.
Travel safe.